What's up, people? Yu-Gi-Oh! Master 88 here, and welcome to another deck profile. As you can see in front of you, people, ladies and gentlemen, I have this. This is a deck profile that I never debuted on my channel before. It's a brand new deck. It's basically a variation of a anime character's deck, but with my own spin and my own twist on it. This is basically my Akiza deck. My very first character deck that I've ever debuted on this channel that is not a custom card deck. This is completely real, 100% card for card. So without further ado, let's get started with the build, shall we? So basically what I'll do is I will set the extra deck aside because you guys already know what's there. Well, you can see the first card actually. So next up, here's the new list. Here's the listing. So we got 3 Rose Lovers here. Now, Rose Lover is a very interesting card because basically I can banish it from the graveyard, summon a plant monster from my hand, and if I do, it's unaffected by trap cards this turn. So essentially, it's just a free special summon, and plus it gets trap immunity. You can basically make any plant monster Genzo for 1 turn. How cute. Next up, we have the only tuner monster in my deck, Rose Girl. Now, Rose Girl is a very interesting tuner monster. I mean, it's an Earth level 3. If a face-up plant monster or monsters you control is sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a plant monster is on the field and this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use 1 Rose Girl effect per turn and only once that turn. So it's basically a tuner that can recur itself if the conditions are correct. Next up, we have 3 copies of Rose Princess. This card just literally got released not long ago. It's an Earth level 3 plant, and if only your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If summoned this way, treat this card as a tuner. You can only special summon Rose Princess once per turn this way. You can discard this card, add 1 White Rose Cloister from your deck to your hand. White Rose Cloister is the new field spell that just got released not long ago. Next up, I added 2 copies of Rose Paladin. I have to get a 3rd one at some point. Rose Paladin's pretty much one of the beaters of the deck, and when this card destroys an opponent's monster at battle and sends it to the grave, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 plant monster from your hand or deck in defense position. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, add 1 level 7 or higher plant monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So basically, not only can you summon a plant, but it also gets you your level 7 or higher plants as well, which we will go over those in just a minute. Next up, we got 3 Rose Archers. This is basically the hand trap of the deck. And what it does is, during your player's turn, when your opponent activates a trap card while you control a plant-type monster, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard and negate the activation if you destroy it. It's really good at negating trap cards. It's a really nice piece of utility, and it helps the stack out really well. Now we get into the main cards of the deck. I am running 3 Queen Angel of Roses. Now, what Queen Angel of Roses does is essentially, I can tribute summon this card in face-up attack position by tributing a plant monster. And once per turn during my standby phase, I can destroy the 1 face-up monster on the field that has the lowest attack points, my choice if tied. So essentially, it's a little similar to, its effect is slightly resemblance of an old trap card called Widespread Ruin. Next up, we have 3 copies of Fallen Angel of Roses. And what she does is, I can special summon this card from my hand by returning 1 face-up plant monster I control to the hand, except herself. And if I do, banish this card when it leaves the field. So essentially, it's a free special summon. So essentially, what What you would do is, if you have 2 plants on the field, you tribute 1 for Fallen Angel of Roses, for Queen Angel of Roses, sorry, and then you return the other one on the field in order to special summon Fallen Angel of Roses. And if you look at their levels very carefully, if I could just pull this up a little bit, you see their levels are exactly the same. They are both level 7. There's a reason for that, and you'll see that reason in a little bit. Next up, we have the main boss monster of the deck, Rosalia, the Stately Fallen Angel. I can only summon this by banishing 2 level 7 or higher plane type monsters from my hand, and one from my hand and 1 from my graveyard. Once per turn during your main phase, you can negate the effects of all other face-up cards currently on the field until the end phase. So essentially, she's pretty much a one-turn skill drain, essentially. That's essentially what she does. Next up, 1 copy of Rose Witch. Rose Witch is essentially pretty much a good beater, but it also counts as 2 tributes for a plant-type monster. Tribute summon. Next up, we got the field spell of the deck, 3 copies of White Rose Cloister. What this does is simple. If you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 Rose Dragon or 1 plant monster from your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. During your draw phase, before you draw, you can declare 1 type of card, monster, spell, or trap. Reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is the declared card type, apply this effect for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. Level 7 or higher synchros you control gain 1,000 attack points. So not only do you get a special summon, excuse me, but you also get an attack boost as well. Next up, a tech card for this deck, 2 copies of Monarch Stormforth. This way you can get rid of pesky monsters on your opponent's field, and in return you get to tribute summon any of your level 7 or higher plants. And I'm also running a 3rd Monarch Stormforth, apparently, because, 3's better than 2. 3 copies of Rose Bell of Revelation. Now, what this does is, I had a plant monster with 2,400 or more attack from my deck to my hand. I can banish this card from my graveyard to summon a plant-type monster with 2,400 or more attack from my hand, and I can only use Rose Bell Revelation's effect 1 effect per turn, and only once that turn. Just 1 effect only. Next up, I run Monster Reborn, and now we get to the traps. I am running 3 copies of Pollinosis. Pollinosis, what this does is essentially, when a monster or monster's would be normal or special or a spell trap card is activated, I tribute a plant monster, negate the activation, and negate the summon or activation, and if I do, I destroy it. It's essentially a solemn judgment for plants. Next, I am running 2 copies of Wall of Thorns. Now, what this does is it's a normal spell card, but it does this. Activate only when a face-up plant-type monster you control is selected as an attack target. I destroy all attack position monsters the opponent controls. This is essentially mere force for plants. That's it. Next, staples, 2 Call the Haunteds, 2 Storming Mirror Forces, and 1 Negate Attack to help us get more advantage. And that is the main deck, people. Next up, the extra deck. Next up, 1 number 11 Big Eye. This is the main reason why I run all those level 7s, because if I have Queen Angel of Roses on my field and Fallen Angel of Roses on my field, I can overlay them for this. And Big Eye is a nasty customer. He's been around the game for a long time. He was once upon a time one of the strongest number monsters in this game's existence. Why? It's very simple. You detach a material and just steal your opponent's monster. It's that simple. Next up, I run 1 copy of Photon Pulse Dragon. Now, there is a way I can make this card in this deck, but it's extremely complicated. I'm not going to go into the all the details, but my deck can make this card, and if it does, I can pretty much make this guy into a level 2 tuner very easily with its effect, and then use it for a Synchro Summon. Next up, one copy of Moonlight Dragon. Everybody knows what Moonlight Dragon's effect does. I'm not going to bother going into it. And then we have the newest addition to the deck, and the second tuner Synchro monster, Garden Rose Flora. Now, what Garden Rose Flora does is this. You can target one card in your field zone, destroy it, then special summon to its controller's field one rose token and attack position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Synchro monsters. You can only use this effect to Garden Rose Flora once per turn. Once per chain during your opponent's main phase. You can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro Summon using this card you control. So this allows me to Synchro Summon on the opponent's turn, similar to just like Formula Synchron. And with that, people, that is it for my Akiza Tribute deck, as I'm calling it now. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. It took me a little while to construct a proper build for this, but you know, it is well worth the wait. So until then, people, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master 88 saying, see you later.